Hello and welcome to this tutorial for users of Microsoft Excel 2016 for the Mac. In this tutorial we're going to look at how to enter, format and calculate with date and time. And you can see here we have a sample spreadsheet, and first of all I need to enter the screening dates for each of these movies. So let's click into cell A7 then, and I'll enter the very first date, which is the 3rd of May 2017. So all I need to do on the keyboard is type 3, the / key and the number 5. So obviously 3 for the day, 5 for the month. Now in different countries the order that you enter the date might be different. For example, it might be month then day, it could be year then month and day. Different countries have different methods of entering the date. What you should do is simply enter the date as you would normally enter it. The important thing to keep in mind is if you're entering a date for the current year, there's no need to enter the year. So as you can see here, all I've entered is the day and the month, and if I now press the enter key, you'll see the default date format that Excel applies. But if I now come back to that cell, and if you take a look in the formula bar, you'll see that Excel is storing that date as the 3rd of May 2017. So always keep that in mind, that if it's a current year, there's no need to enter the year number. Excel will take care of that for you. Although you don't need to enter the year, there's nothing to stop you doing that if you want to. So let's come down to the next cell, and this is the 16th of May, so I type 16, the / key, which by the way is obviously the divide key, or you may know it as the oblique key, 5 for the month, and again / and this time I'll type 17 for the year, press the enter key, and you'll notice there that Excel formats that date now with the year included. And if I wanted to enter a date for a previous year or a future year, then obviously I would have to type in the year value regardless of any other type of formatting. So let's say, for example, I'm going to screen Citizen Kane in 2018. I might type the day, 15th, and the month, maybe June, and then I would have to type 18 for the year, press the enter key, and again Excel applies the same basic formatting there. I'll delete that last date entry, and I'll carry on and enter the final dates of my screening. So we have 23rd of May for Citizen Kane. The Wizard of Oz is the 1st of June, so 1/6. And finally, Singing in the Rain is the 10th of June. So 10 / 6, press the enter key. And there we have our dates. Now you'll notice, by the way, in cell A9, how even though I didn't enter the year, it did actually show the year in the format. So when a cell has a particular date format already applied to it, anytime you enter a future date, the same formatting will obviously be applied. Now that I've entered my dates, I want them obviously to have consistent formatting. So let's look at a few of the basic ways we can apply date formatting using Excel's formatting tools. And I'll click onto the 3rd of May date, and then come to the number section on the Home tab and click on the drop down arrow where all the different formatting options can be found. So if you click on the drop down there, you'll see the list, and in this list we have 2 date entries, short date and long date. I'll click on short date first of all. You've actually already seen this format, but this is what it is anyway. So it's 2 digits for the day, 2 digits for the month, and 4 digits for the year. Now if we come back to those same formatting options, and this time choose long date, and you see an example there, so you can guess what you're going to see. And what you get is the day of the week as text. We get the day as a number, and this time you'll see there's no leading 0 either. We get the month name, and we get the year as a 4-digit value as well. So for my purposes that's much more informative, and that's the date format I'll be keeping. But I'll just show you some other options as well. So if I come back to that same drop down in the number section on the Home tab, come all the way to the bottom, and we go to more number formats. And I'll just bring that dialog box across there. You'll see the date is automatically selected. That's because the cell that I want to apply the formatting to already has date formatting, so Excel jumps me to the date section. And you see here we have a sample, so whatever format we choose we get a preview, and then down below we have all kinds of different date options, and so you can see some of the initial formatting options, some of those we've seen already, but further down you'll see we also have the location, so you could actually format your date for a different country if you need to do that. There's a long list of countries there which I won't go through right now. And the calendar type is linked to the location, so in my case I only have Gregorian, but if you choose a different location you may see more than one calendar type available. For now I'm going to cancel that dialog box and come back to my list of dates, and as I said I want to have a consistent set of dates here, so what I'm actually going to do is make sure that cell A7 is selected, and come up to my Format Painter button there. So copy the format by clicking that, come back to the spreadsheet and then click and drag the 4 remaining cells to have a consistent date format for my movies. If you enter dates into, for example, a table and you find yourself frequently entering today's date, there's a nice shortcut that you can use to do that. Now if I come up to cell D3, I'm going to type the word today and just tab across to the next cell there. I want to put today's date in, and to do that with the keyboard you type Control, keep the Control key held down, and then type the apostrophe key. And you'll see there today's date is entered, which is the 8th of February 2017. If I now press the Enter key, if I just come back to that cell, now this date is okay for today, but tomorrow it will still say the 8th of February, which is no good for me because tomorrow is the 9th. So I need some way of having Excel automatically show me the current date. And I can do that with a very simple formula, and it's this. So type equals on the keyboard and then just type the word today, and then follow that with an open and close parentheses. Press the Enter key. If I come back to that, you'll see on the spreadsheet we actually have the date, but the formula bar of course shows the formula behind that calculation. So for me that's a better solution, and tomorrow the date will show as the 9th of February. The next thing I want to do is to create a calculation using these dates now, so I can inform my customers how many days there are to go to the screening, if it's not already obvious from the actual date. So if I come down to cell E7, I'll create the calculation. The only thing to keep in mind regarding date calculations is that Excel stores every date as a number. So creating a calculation to show the difference between 2 dates is quite a simple formula. So all I need to do here is type equals as you would with any calculation, and then you must click on the later date first of all. So the later date is obviously the one on the 3rd of May in this case, and then subtract on the keyboard, and then click on the earlier date. So all I'm doing really is taking a lower value away from a higher value, and if I click on the tick this time to accept that, you'll see we have the number of days, which is 84. I'll just do one more calculation, so click in the next cell down, equals on the keyboard, click on the later date, which will be the higher value, subtract on the keyboard, click on the earlier date, which will be the lower value, and I'll press the Enter key this time, and there we have the result. Now if you remember our absolute cell reference tutorial, I can't simply copy this calculation down because I'm referring to cell E3, and if I try and copy down, the calculation will suddenly include cell E4 and it won't work. So I'm going to delete those existing calculations, and I will do it properly this time. So equals on the keyboard, click on my later value or the later date, subtract on the keyboard, click on E3, and I want to make this an absolute cell reference. And because I've set my keyboard with the function keys, I can just press the F4 key. If you don't have that, you can type in those $ manually, click on the tick to accept, and then put the mouse pointer bottom right of the cell, get the black cross and double click. And finally on date calculations, I'm going to come to another example here which might be useful, a birthday planner. It's the same idea really, so we have today's date as you can see there, and I need to do a simple calculation to work out how many days I have to buy the appropriate gifts. So equals on the keyboard, I'm sure you've worked this out by now. We click on the later date first of all, which will be the higher value, subtract on the keyboard, and then click on the earlier date, which will be the lower value. And again, I need to set this as an absolute reference. Let's accept that formula and copy down. This time I'll click and drag, which gets the same result there, you can see. So if, like me, you have trouble remembering when people's birthdays are, you might find this particular spreadsheet quite helpful. Next, we're going to start looking at working with time in Excel. And if I click on the next worksheet, Staff Rota, and you see here a timesheet where we can enter the start time, finish time, and also calculate the number of hours worked. So first of all, we'll look at entering times and applying formatting to times. I've already clicked into cell B4 there. So let's say Fred starts at 8 AM. All I would need to do here is type 8 space A. And if I then press the Enter key, you'll see that Excel recognizes that as 8 AM. So the cell has now been formatted as a time. And if I go back to that cell and you take a look also in the formula bar, you'll see a slightly different format. So you see the hours, the minutes, and the seconds separated by a colon. And that'll give you a clue as to how you enter hours and minutes. So if I come down to the next cell and enter Lisa's start time, which is 8:30. I type the number 8, then a colon, and then 30, obviously. And because I'm working on a 12-hour clock and not a 24-hour clock, I need to tell Excel whether it's morning or afternoon. So type space and then A to confirm it's AM. Again, press the enter key and Excel recognizes that time. So finally for Jim, let's just say he starts at 1:30 p.m. I would type 1 colon 30 space and then P to indicate it's PM, and then I can just press the enter key. If you want to enter times on a 24-hour clock basis, and if I come back to Fred's finish time, and let's say Fred finishes at 5 p.m, I would enter that as 17 colon 00, and obviously there's no need to enter the A or the P because this is a 24-hour format. So just press the enter key, and there we get 1700. If I go back to that cell, you take a look in the formula bar, again it shows the 24-hour format. Excel will always store hours, minutes and seconds, and unless you specify the number of seconds, they will be stored as 0, as you can see here. Now if you want to have more precision and enter the time with the seconds as well, that's easy enough to do. So if I come down to the next cell, so let's say we're going to enter Lisa's finishing time as 5:30 and 15 seconds, and I'll enter it on the 12-hour clock. So I will type 5 colon 30 colon 15 space P. So that's 5:30 and 15 seconds PM. Press the enter key and Excel stores that time including the seconds, as you can see there. And if I come back to that cell, and if you look in the formula bar, you'll see that Excel is actually storing all the times on a 24-hour clock. So the formula bar will always show a 24-hour clock, but your spreadsheet will show whatever format you choose. You can also apply different formats using the formatting tools. So let's keep this cell selected, and if I come across the number section on the home tab, click on the drop down arrow there, and you'll see here we have time, which is the 24-hour clock version, and if I click on that, you'll see it converts that entry to a 24-hour clock. Let's go back to that drop down again, and this time I'm going to come to more number formats, and if I bring that format cells dialog across, you'll see there we have the time category selected, and you'll see some built-in formatting options here in the 24-hour and 12-hour clock versions, depending on what you prefer. For example, the last two there have the option of a leading 0 or no leading 0. So if I go for the final option there, click OK, that will change my time back to a 12-hour clock display. I'll just enter the finishing time for Jim, and he's going to finish at 6 p.m. So for that, all I need to do is type 6 space P. And finally, I do want to have a consistent time format here. So I'll just click on my first time there, click on the format painter again, you see that before, the copy format button, and then just click and drag that whole range there from B4 down to C6, release the mouse button, and there we have all the same time formatting. Similar to dates, when you're calculating with time, the only thing you need to keep in mind is that the more recent time has a higher value than an earlier time. So when I calculate my hours, and I'll just come to the cell to perform the calculation now, all I need to do is type equals, again as with any calculation, click on the later time first, which in this case is 5 p.m, and then subtract the earlier time, the lower value, and then I'll just click on the tick there first of all. Now the formatting at the moment shows AM, and I don't want to see the AM or PM obviously, I just want to see the number of hours and minutes calculated. So to change the formatting, come back to the number section again, click on that drop down again, and come down to more number formats. And if you're not already in the custom category, click on custom, and here I'm actually going to delete everything out of the type box. So whatever's entered in there, just select it, press delete, and I'm going to create a format here by typing the letter H twice for hours, type a colon, and the minutes by typing M twice. So that's a custom format I've created. I could also modify that by having no leading 0 by having a single H there. So if I just delete one of the H's, you'll see the leading 0 is removed. I'll calculate with a leading 0 and then click OK. I'll go through that process one more time. So click in the next cell down. So equals on the keyboard, click on the later time first, minus the keyboard, click the earlier time, I'll click the tick to accept. Again, the formatting is wrong. Just go to the drop down on the number section, choose more number formats. In the custom section, delete whatever's already in there, and just type either a single H or double H, depending on whether you want the leading 0, colon, So you're setting the format that you want. If you want to add seconds as well for more precision, you can do by adding another colon, and the S will of course be the seconds. And you can see here that it now shows Lisa's seconds as well. If you remember, I entered seconds on her finish time, so I'm going to correct that. I'll delete the seconds off there for now and just click OK. Let's go back to Lisa's finish time, and again you see there in the formula bar the seconds are showing, and I can correct that in the formula bar by simply deleting the 15 and replacing with 00. Press the enter key. And before I calculate my final time for Jim, I'm going to copy the format from the previous cell, so I don't have to bother going back to the formatting options. So click the format painter again and then click onto cell D6. And with that done, it's simply a case of equals on the keyboard, click on the later time first, minus the earlier time, click on the tick again, and there we have 4 hours 30 minutes, and this time, because it's pre-formatted, it doesn't show the A or the P. And you'll also see that I have a calculation to work out the pay that's going to go to each employee, and that's simply multiplying the number of hours by the pay rate to get the total pay. And finally, one more example. If I come to my final worksheet, we see here we have some classic movie screenings again, and here we have the start time for the movie listed along with the trailer time, which is 15 minutes in each case, so trailers and promos, whatever it might be, and the duration of each movie. So two things I'm going to calculate. First of all, it's the total duration of the show, and finally also indicate what the end time of the screening will be. So I've selected cell F7, and that's where my first calculation will be. So as you know by now, it's equals on the keyboard, and all I'm going to do is add the time for the trailers and the time for the movie. So click on D7, plus on the keyboard this time, and then click on E7, click on the tick to accept that, and there we have the total duration for the show, 2 hours 5 minutes. And to work out the end time, again click in the cell where the result is to go, equals on the keyboard, click on the start time, plus on the keyboard, and then I'm going to click on the total duration, press the enter key this time, and there we see the end time for the show is 10:05 p.m. I'll do that one more time. So again, click in the total duration, equals on the keyboard, click on the trailer time, plus the movie time. I'll press the tab key this time to jump across to my end time calculation, equals on the keyboard, click on the start time, and then I simply want to add, so plus on the keyboard, the total duration, and I'll press the enter key again this time. And we can see that it ends at 9:49 p.m. And finally, I'll just select those last two entries and just click and drag down there to complete the table. So you've seen there a few examples of how to enter, format and calculate with dates and times. I hope you found some of the things there useful and you can apply them to the spreadsheets that you're working on. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.